Hey guys, per usual, everything on this channel is for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. So hello to all the new followers and subscribers on Twitter and YouTube. Thanks for the pump, Colin, and everyone else. Alright, let's look at some charts. So last video I discussed the weekly candle at the time, saying it likely wasn't the top. Obviously that's a different story now. It's probably an interim top, and we're probably due for some consolidation at this level. You can see similar to here and here, post-wick slash huge retrace. We generally just have a period of consolidation, at least 40 days. You can see that these wicks here, here, all generally represent emotions, panic, or euphoria, in this case euphoria, and then in these cases panic, okay? One thing that's interesting is PBOC's announcement allowed us to touch the Kijun on the weekly, which is something we haven't done since the Bitfinex hack and before we broke out. OKCoin's volume for the week was the highest ever recorded per them. Now we know that there's fake volume at OKCoin. PBOC is telling them that they know that that's the case. We all mostly knew that that was the case beforehand. So whether or not this is actually 27 million coins traded, who knows? But either way, highest recorded volume for the week. So pretty interesting. Something I mentioned also on a previous video. As long as we're above the cloud, we're bullish. Bias is bullish. You're going to make more money going long than short. However, when we're so far away from the cloud like this, we can oscillate back and forth indefinitely above or below the TK lines. It's really the cloud that determines whether or not we're in a bullish trend or bearish trend. So how actionable that is and how you want to trade that, it's going to be tough, because if we drop below the weekly Kijun, the next support is 3750-ish area on the cloud here. Now I just said if you are above the cloud, you're going to make more money going long than short, but yeah, it's going to get pretty hairy. Now the Kijun is a magnet for price at any level. So you'll notice that on the daily we blew past the Kijun and we're sort of like returned to the Kijun. Now that'll be the case, if we drop way down here, price will continually want to go back to equilibrium, okay? It also says that this level, 5600 or whatever it is a very nice support at the moment, just like it was here and here. As far as RSI is concerned, there's no real div per se. We went from overbought to back in whatever nomenclature you want to use for this zone in RSI. If we go to daily CNY, OKCoin, according to this Pitchfork, you can see we're flirting with this quartile again, trying to get back into this quartile. Now here's what I was talking about. On the Kijun, we blew past it. We're bouncing back towards it now. There's also a Pitchfork diag here. I mentioned this on Twitter, but if we go out of the Pitchfork in CNY terms, that's the first indicator that trend is starting to flip to either neutral and then bearish. So this is sort of the last bastion for the bulls here, this zone, 5,000 to 5,300. And then from there, we go into the cloud, we go neutral for sure as far as trend is concerned. And then if we drop out of the cloud, then trend is considered bearish. Something else to note is that these horizontals, so this is the previous high. You can see that hopefully that's a resistance turn support now. And any triangle point is always a resistance or support line. So if we go below the cloud and through this support zone, that's definitely a bearish trend indicator. I don't see that happening. You have to think that trend is your friend until the end, and continuation will occur over reversal until it does. So again, I'm not expecting this to go any lower. We can certainly oscillate on the weekly cloud much lower, but still be bullish on the weekly, but bearish on the daily cloud. So sort of mixed signals if we drop down this zone. Something else you'll notice is this horizontal line. This is the SEC Winklevi ETF announcement. Whether or not it'll have any effect on price, who knows? You gotta weigh a yes over a no more heavily, because we've had no's as far as the ETF's concerned from the SEC this whole time. So if a yes finally happens, I think something will happen in price. I mentioned that there might be a huge shakeout beforehand. Some of us are discussing that, just to get weak hands to sell, allowing institutional people to fill up their bids basically. So we may see that before the announcement or after the announcement or the day of the announcement, but don't be surprised if that does happen. If we go to daily stamp, again, same story. We're still in the Pitchfork, flirting with a little different quartile. Forks on each USD and CNY are slightly different, telling the same story that we're still in an uptrend. So this is our current quartile. Obviously, if we drop below all these zones here, that's a clear indicator of bearish sentiment. Still above the cloud. Currently, again, bouncing from low, super oversold conditions back to the Kijun. Anytime price is outside of the equilibrium, which is the Kijun, it's going to want to continually try to get back there. So that's something to keep in mind. And again, this was a great reversal candle here, the pin bar or dragonfly, very similar to here. The next candle, the previous daily close, considered a spinning top, sort of. This candle here, harder to see. Basically, it means that bullish and bearish buyers and sellers are coming to an equilibrium. I've been fooling around with this idea for the past couple days. Basically, it's comparing this fractal and drop to this current possible fractal. Obviously, they're not very close at the moment. If they do mirror each other, you'd expect sort of consolidation around these fibs, which would be these levels here. Again, a nice bounce. I don't have a 50 EMA on here, but bounced at the same level on the daily, which is good. And you can see RSI bounced, trying to bounce on the 50. We'll see what happens today. But, and again, Winklevi ETF announcement may or may not dump before, during the announcement, or after. Usually it's buy the rumor, sell the news, but who knows? So you probably expect that over pre-dump and then pump. You probably expect pump and then dump around the announcement. So if we go down to lower time frames, this is 4-hour CNY. I like to leave my annotations and zones from the higher time frames. That way when you're lower, you can sort of still be focused on higher time frames without seeing the chart. So again, this is a huge level that's super important that we bounce from. Otherwise, trend's sort of in trouble. So 4-hour fork, you can see we're trying to consolidate or bounce from something here. I'm highlighting this. This is a Kumo twist. What the Kumo twist is a very time-specific point in which resistance and support is basically zero. So should we have momentum to shoot through that area, either from the downside or from the upside, that will happen usually more often than not. You can also see on the TK lines, super huge disequilibrium here. We like to call that a C-clamp disequilibrium. And then lastly, the median line of the pitchfork is always a return to mean area. So price is going to want to return to this zone up here, this red line. Going down to hourly CNY, again, same story. We have a bullish TK cross, which is telling anybody that was short from the top that they should have closed their short by now. Now, if we get a cross-recross below the cloud, that's a really strong bearish indicator. That would be a great short entry signal. We'll see if that happens. I'm currently in a long. I'm expecting this to go towards the flat Kumo. Any of the flat Kumos you see, so the flat part on the cloud, that's a 50% fib. So this is the 50% fib of this move here. So you can think of flat Kumos as price magnets. Another thing to note is the edge-to-edge trade. Should we get a candle close in the cloud, you can expect to some degree of high probability that we reach or touch the other edge of the cloud. So this is a nice fat cloud. If we close in here, 6,400 to 7,200, 800 won. It's a nice trade right there. So this is the hourly chart I posted on Twitter from Bitstamp. Usually people ask me like, what's going on? This is way too busy, blah, blah, blah. So let's go through how I get to that point. First, I look at the candles naked. What do you see? You run your chart pattern algorithm. You run your candle algorithm in your head. Is there anything I can pick out here? I know should be bullish. My bias is bullish because of the cloud. We just had a giant dump. We had a pin bar reversal on the daily. This should be the bottom, or it should be near the bottom. So what do I see that's congruent with that? I see head and shoulders, shoulder, head, shoulder. This may be this shoulder now. I see dragonfly type candle here again. We sort of blew past that. So when I pop on volume, volume profile matches the head and shoulders idea that we should have a descending volume profile. So there might be another shoulder, head, shoulder, shoulder, head, shoulder up here. And you'd expect a giant green candle for confirmation of that after we break the neckline. Then if we pop on monthly pivots, you can see we're oscillating between these quite nicely, you know, support, resistance, support, etc. So that tells me the monthly pivots are saying something that they're worth paying attention to. And then if I pop on the cloud, again, bullish TK, I'm looking at this. This is a C-clamp again. This is saying this is super oversold. You obviously want to look for these before this giant move happens. It also bounced nicely on the monthly pivot. And again, flat Kumo. So that's how I go from nothing to this. And basically why I'm long right now is because of all the confluence for up. There's also support from the Pitchfork right here as well. So there's Kijun and Pitchfork support on the hourly. That doesn't really match what the cloud is saying, which is we're sort of in bearish territory on the low time frame right now. And I'm kind of early on the pattern, so I might get burned. But overall, I think this is a good place to go long. Then lastly, if we go to the 30-minute, which is the lowest time frame I want to take signals from usually on the cloud, I'm looking at just my basic boilerplate cloud entry signals. Both the bullish and bearish entry signals aren't all a go yet, so it's telling you really shouldn't be in any position based on the 30-minute. But again, we have a Kumo twist here. Should we have momentum push through that, you'd expect at this time point us to pop through that. That might sound crazy, but I've seen it so often, and once you start seeing it yourself and looking for it, it will be less crazy to you. The other thing to look at here, this is a Pitchfork median line. If we get a Kumo breakout above this, that's an excellent long entry signal. So guys, that's all I have for today. Per usual, like, dislike, comment, subscribe, share. Hit me up on Twitter, Telegram. Happy trading.